Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining me tonight. Um, I was thinking about praying mantises, and the question is like they pray all the time. What religion are they? And the answer is their religion varies, but they're all insects. Mhm. My name is Dr. Asatar Bear. I'm a professor of economics and teacher of meditation, and I teach heart rhythm meditation. This is kind of meditation comes out of Sufism. Lots of different kinds of meditation that come out of Sufism. This is just one of them, but it's a very powerful one, one that I've gotten a lot from. And the way this works is focus a lot of attention on the breath. And in paying attention to the breath, focusing on the breath, but also changing the breath to really make it optimal, all right? And that means to make it deep, okay? So you're breathing through your abdominal region, abdominal breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, it's called, to make your breath slow. We normally breathe about maybe 20 times a minute, 15 or 20 times a minute. So we're slowing the breath down with in heart rhythm meditation. We're making the breath, each breath take longer, and then you'll have fewer of them per minute. Maybe five per minute, maybe less. It depends on how far you go with it, right? Um, and this has a huge effect on you, right? It slows down. Breath is a very fundamental rhythm in your body, in your mind, in your emotions, and even in your spirit. So by slowing that down, you slow down your rhythm. And that has a lot of incredible effects, just that alone. All right. Now, we're doing more than that, right? We're also making the breath rhythmic. Okay. And this means that the breath, the same length on the inhalation as it is on the exhalation. And also that your breath is smooth, uninterrupted, flowing. Okay. That's also an aspect of slow rhythmic breathing. Okay. Now, the best way that I know of to do that, and the part of this method, is to put your breathing in sync with your heartbeat. All right. Now, that's difficult. We're not necessarily used to paying attention to the heartbeat, right? Um, and and sometimes even we come to associate our heartbeat with negative experiences, because like think back to a time where you were really anxious, maybe that was even recently, I don't know, right? But a lot of times your heart starts hammering, right? You become aware of your heart, but it's with a negative connotation, right? um, or if you like really exert yourself, right? Like, oh my god, I've got working myself really hard, right? My heart's pounding. And we associate with the difficulty of that exertion with the feeling of the heartbeat. So it can take time to develop some new associations between feeling a heartbeat and having that be good, right? um, so if you don't feel your heartbeat right away, that's okay, right? You can breathe rhythmically without it. That's just the best way that I know of to make sure that your breath is very rhythmic. All right. um, and now another aspect that dovetails quite well with is making your breath heart centered, right? Now, by that, I mean that you're thinking of your breath, right? Your breathing process, and you're also thinking about your heart, your spiritual and emotional center. Okay, so in yoga, that's called the heart chakra, right? That's the center of your emotions, of your feelings, and in a deeper sense, the center of yourself, your ego, right? Who you are as a living being. So making your breath heart centered means you think about your spiritual center, your heart, as you breathe, right? That you feel that it is your heart that is breathing, okay? Your heart that is taking in energy when you inhale and radiating energy, projecting energy as you exhale. All right. Now, we have various different ways of tuning this practice because your heart has many different kinds of energy, right? I mean, like, think of all the feelings that you might have, right? I mean, you might feel joyful or you might feel sad, you might feel angry, you might feel determined, and there's so many other feelings you could have, right? And each of these feelings brings with it a different vibe, a different energy, right? Now, we have ways of working with that in meditation, and we have, there's limitless number of different ways we can tune this basic practice to for the needs of a particular individual, right? So I'm not really in a position to do that right now because I'm not working with you all individually, right? I'm projecting, So you're watching my show right now, right? If we were in a personal relationship, if I was teaching you one to one, then I would key my message to you personally, right? But that's a different style. That's a different venue, let's say, right? But I'm just letting you know that's part of this, right? Um, okay, so and the last aspect that we want to work on with the breath is to make the breath full. All right, and that means to make your breath bigger than it normally is, right? Normally, when we're not paying attention to our breath, we allow it to kind of go on autopilot. Thank God that works, right? Otherwise, we would not survive, right? We when we're on breathing on autopilot, we're maybe breathing 2 to 5%, maybe 10%. I mean, depending on the person, we're using a very, very small proportion of our lung capacity, right? Our ability to breathe is so much greater than what we tap into, right? So one of the fundamental ideas in meditation is that breath is not just air, right? It's also energy. So by breathing more fully, we are energizing ourselves in a very fundamental way, right? On all levels of our being, right? We're energizing our physical bodies, okay? We're energizing our heart organ. Right now, I'm not talking about the chakra now. I'm talking about the actual thing that pumps blood, right? Um, that's a good thing to energize, right? We're energizing our brain, right? We are energizing our blood, right? Our blood requires a particular balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, right? By breathing in the manner that I've described, we are creating the proper balance so that your blood, all of the cells in your blood and your tissues and organs in your brain, right, all this can make use of the oxygen. Uh, if not, you enter a state called hypocapnia, right? Which is very negative, right? You can see this on a scan of your brain and so on, right? So we want to avoid that, right? Uh, okay, so that is the basic what heart rhythm meditation is. All right, now let's try it out. Let's try practicing it. Okay, so take one hand and place it on your belly, right? And this is to make sure that your breath uh, is diaphragmatic, right? Is that your belly is moving as you inhale and exhale. Uh, and take your other hand and place it on your chest. All right, and sit up straight. Close your eyes and pay attention to your breath. So as you breathe in, feel your belly expanding, and as you breathe out, feel your belly contracting, getting smaller. And just push the air out by squeezing your abdominal muscles. Try to extend the breath a little bit more, maybe even a lot more than you normally do. But keep it under control. Okay, whatever you do to your breath, remember you want the action of your breathing to be very smooth, to not hold the breath, to not let the breath rush in and then be still or something like that. We want the breath to flow like a gentle river. Now, you may notice that to make your breath really full, you have to do more than just use your belly. You have to bring the breath up into your chest. And that's good. If you've noticed that, that's a good observation. And that means that you're doing two kinds of breathing at once. You're doing the diaphragmatic breathing for part of your breath cycle, and then you're moving into the thoracic breathing or the chest breathing. As long as your belly is engaged, then we still call that deep breathing, right? Because your diaphragmatic breathing for at least part of the breath cycle. The problem is if your belly is like frozen, right? That your belly is tense, you don't let the breath go down there. That's a problem, right? If you only breathe in your chest, this sends a signal to your body, to your nervous system, and it sends a signal that you're under stress. And that's not the signal we want to be sending, right? We want to be sending a different signal. We want to be sending a signal that says, we're relaxed now. We can open ourselves so that we can learn more about who we are, and we can experience the inner life, and that we're ready to take whatever the meditation experience offers us. Now, if you can feel your heartbeat, that's good. Bring it into tune with your breath. So breathe in the same number of beats on the inhalation as you do on the exhalation. Perhaps that number is 8 beats in, 8 beats out. And if that's not the right number for you, then please adjust that. If you are able to keep to that rhythm, then you'll notice that your breath is done doing several things there. It's automatically going to be much slower because while I don't know exactly what rate your heart is beating at right now, right? Um, if it's 60 to 80 beats a minute or something like this, right? That's uh, be a normal kind of range. Most people's is probably going to fall somewhere in there. Well, you then one heartbeat is going to take either a second or maybe a little bit less, right? So you one breath, a full breath in and out is going to take 16 beats then, right? And so at that rate, you'll be breathing, maybe 4 or 5 times per minute, right? And this has a very profound effect on your nervous system. This slows down your nervous system at a very fundamental level, right? Your breath is much slower when you sleep. When you sleep, your breath is slow but shallow, right? So we're doing something different than sleep, right? We want the relaxation of sleep. We don't want to fall asleep, right? Because you fall asleep, then you're not consciously aware of what's happening, right? We would like to retain that awareness. If you're having trouble feeling a heartbeat, you just take your fingertips and just press them lightly on your breastbone. And then that way, maybe you feel the heartbeat in your fingertips. All right, I'll end my little practice session there. I want to say a few things. I mean, feel free to continue to practice your breathing while I'm talking, um, if you like. Uh, if not, um, you know, just listen. Um, I want to talk a little bit about um, happiness and dissatisfaction, unhappiness, and even self-loathing. So I think we're in a culture that really celebrates happiness, right? And I mean, it's like part of our like founding documents of the right, like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness type of thing, right? I mean, I'm coming from a U.S. context here. Maybe not everyone is, but still a very influential idea, right? Um, that we can and maybe even should be happy, right? And then like that if we're not, oh no, I mean, what a disaster, right? What a thing. And can meditation do that? Can meditation make me happy? I mean, it's a fair question, right? Should we not be happy? Like, of course we should. Um, but Sufism has an interesting perspective on this, right? Which is that happiness is great. I mean, we don't have to say anything good. It's already self-evident why it's good, right? But it's not necessarily what life is really about, right? I mean, um, and how can I convince you of that, right? Like, if, I don't know. Like, I think life would be rather different if life was about happiness. You know, what it seems to me. I mean, I've only been studying it for you know 47 years or so. So, um, what do I know, right? Uh, it seems to me that life is about growth much more than it's about happiness, right? There are moments of happiness, moments of, I hope, incredible joy and bliss, right? Um, but I don't think that happiness is like I don't know, what we're meant to be experiencing all the time, right? Because each one of us has so much longing, right? And we're so quick to take for granted the things that are static in our lives and in ourselves, right? I mean, many of us in the in modern life have enough to eat, right? I mean, and have never really even known, except maybe voluntarily, hunger, right? Um, and what a constant threat hunger was, right? I mean, for like most of the 2 million or so years that human beings have been around, um, not getting enough calories was like a major problem, right? Knowing hunger, uh, I mean, that's a very like common human experience, right? We have, in that sense, triumphed over nature, right? Um, wow, like, is that something that we appreciate on a moment to moment basis? No, not really, right? I mean, it's because it's so easy for us to just take that for granted, right? Um, we we just accept. I mean, that food will be there whenever we want, right? Um, so you know, that's part of it, right? Like, part of our uh, failure to be happy is that so much that we take for granted, right? And you know, this is actually one of the great benefits to be had spiritually from just not eating for a little while, right? I mean, it could even be just part of the day, right? Um, enough to feel hungry, right? What's the benefit of that? Well, then you appreciate when you do eat, right? Like, wow, this is a really, food is amazing, right? I mean, go for 2 days without it, and then it's like everything tastes a lot better, right? Like what they say, hunger is the best spice. So, right, that's part of. Yeah, I mean, but it's human nature to take things for granted, right? So, okay, that seems to be somewhat hardwired, right? I mean, like, we are attuned to the things that threaten us, right? I mean, that's what's allowed us to survive, right? And hey, it's not all the things that are going well, The sun's shining, great. Oh my God, there's a tiger. That's much more important than the fact that the sun is shining, right? Because we don't want to get killed by the tiger. So, all right, if the overarching purpose of life, if you follow me on this, are willing to accept me, my argument, right, is not really happiness, but growth, right? Growth. Well, if that's true, that it makes a little more sense why we would feel dissatisfied, right? I mean, and feeling dissatisfied is incredibly common, right? I mean, that may well be a kind of universal feeling, right? I mean, no matter how much or how little you've accomplished, no matter how much you've gotten of what you desire, and of course, we all have lots of things we desire, right? Um, there's always something else that you want, right? Maybe it's not even a physical thing. Maybe it's something that you want for yourself, right? Or maybe it's that you want to connect to somebody else, right? Or you want to have particular relationship or kind of, anyway, you get the idea, right? There's always so much that we want. And I think in no one is this more apparent than in the celebrities who achieve their dreams, maybe even beyond like what they dreamed of, right? At a very young age, right? Because we see this, I mean, this is in our culture, right? Our culture uplifts celebrities who they've gotten wealth, they've gotten fame, maybe they've gotten power, or maybe some combination, right? Usually those things come together. Um, and then it's like, wow, you're living the dream. I mean, you must be just happy all the time, right? But are they? Uh, no, right? I mean, come on. Uh, we all know this, right? You get something you want, and that's great for a little while, and then you pretty soon start taking it for granted. That's right. I mean, we do that with everything. Why would it be different for something that we really care about, right? Um, Now, I'm not saying stop wanting things. Of course not, right? I mean, you know, the desire to accomplish things or to have certain experiences or so on, right? I mean, this is, a fundamental part of life. Um, so, I'm not suggesting the one approach to this that's been offered, right? By lots of spiritual traditions, actually, is that you should renounce your desires, right? And the Sufis have a different point of view on this, right? Which is you should accomplish what you want, right? You should grow. If life is about growth, then one of the major ways that we grow is by actually accomplishing the things that we want, right? Now, that doesn't mean we should accomplish everything, right? I mean, we should use some discrimination in terms of like, well, what things do we pursue? What things are really important, right? What things would be good for us and perhaps good for others as well, right? I mean, that would be better if you could have a win-win, right? Um, all right, so it resonates with me, right? This teaching that a lot of our dissatisfaction is because life is always pushing us to grow, right? No matter how far we've come, there is always more, right? There's always more that we can become. Um, I mean, I can say this for myself. I've achieved a lot of the things that I dreamed of, and do I feel like okay, I can lay down and die now? No, not at all. Even at the advanced age of 47, and I'm going to be 48 this month, so I should start getting used to saying that one, right? Um, even at that ancient age, I'm still not I'm still not satisfied on some level, right? I still have that dissatisfaction, that desire to achieve more, to be a better person, right? I mean, that's something that drives me every day, right? Um, all right, so how do we like reconcile this, and how do we deal with this, right? And how does this all relate to meditation? Um, well, one of the things that makes meditation difficult is that meditation opens the gateway, right? So, whatever that kind of dissatisfaction that you have, right, with yourself, or something you're trying to get, accomplish, or something you're hoping for, whatever it is, right? Um, Meditation often brings that to the surface. So, you might not be thinking of it every single second of the day, right? But when you get quiet and close your eyes and focus on your heart, I mean, what's going to happen, right? I mean, you're going to start thinking about, well, whatever it is that bothers you, right? Whatever it is that you care about, whatever it is you're longing for, that is going to come up. There's no question about it, right? And that's difficult, right? Because it's difficult to be in that place. So, but it's very, very important, right? Because if life is about growth, then all the experiences of life have some kind of purpose, right? They help us to grow in some way or other, right? Now, it might not be in a way that we like, it might not be in a way that we choose, it might not be in a way that we think is fair. That's all, that might be the case, right? But every experience that we have is an opportunity for growth, right? And I think that's, I mean, I'll just speak for myself, right? That's been, for me, that's been a helpful philosophical position to adopt, right? So, because I don't think that meditation is really about your beliefs, and I know here I am philosophizing and whatever, right? And if it's not about your beliefs, why all this talking? Um, well, here's what I mean by that. What I mean is, try on the attitude, right, that I'm describing. Try that on for size and see if it helps you, right? If it helps you, then good, keep it. If not, discard it, right? Is that I'm not invested in you believing or not believing that, right? All I'm saying is, you know, like any of the techniques that I'm sharing with you, these are things that have helped me. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother, I wouldn't deign to, to think, or I wouldn't presume to think it'd be helpful to somebody else, right? If it didn't help me. Um, so, I mean, I suppose I could say the other piece is that I have seen it help others as well, right? All right. Well, so something to consider, right? Um, Now, what about this? Can this sense of dissatisfaction? So I've talked about how it might be useful to you, right? That it might help you to reinterpret the things that you're feeling, and especially, by the way, especially the things that you experience in meditation, right? Because meditation is a time where you don't have the external stimuli going on, right? I mean, that's that's something that we have to react to, right? I mean, like, we go through life, we have to respond to the things around us, right? We can't just internally reflect, right? So, but when we are doing that, right, we're sitting quietly, and there isn't other stuff going on, right? We focused on the inner world. Um, well, you know, then the thoughts and feelings that arise, we have to view them in a particular light, right? We have to view them as having a particular purpose. Okay. So, and this is where I'm going to kind of differ from some of the common teachings on this that say, the thoughts that you're having are kind of just meaningless noise, right? Yeah, the monkey mind. Oh, yeah. Like this, right? Um, I mean, there's some truth to that, right? I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just taking a slightly different attitude toward it, right? It's noise, yes, but it's still meaningful, right? I mean, it's still coming from you, and everything that comes from you should be of interest, right? I mean, that's what these inner life is, right? I mean, you're exploring yourself, right? So, but at the same time, thoughts are the surface, right? They're the surface of your awareness. So here's another attitude kind of adjustment that I'm going to suggest, right? Which is consider that your thoughts are like the surface of the ocean of yourself, right? That's where, there's a lot of there's choppy waves and whatever, right, going on. Um, but beneath that, there are there are deeper currents, right? There are these underwater, deep underwater currents, and this is your feelings, right? So I'm suggesting take the attitude that your thoughts come from your feelings, right? And that your feelings, you can go deeper with them as well, right? That is, there's a feeling that's even deeper than the feeling you might be aware of, right? So you can dive into that and experience it on a much deeper level, and that's a good like if you're having a thought and it says, oh, okay, that means I have a feeling that I need to explore, and then you open yourself to that feeling and really experience it, and then get into the feeling that is even more fundamental, even deeper than that one, then that thought had a purpose, right? I mean, it helped you. It reminded you of something very important. So let's try this out, right? I don't want to be just talking, right? I want you to see, like, well, does this work? Is this for me? Okay, so uh, try it out by taking your meditative posture. Sit up straight and close your eyes. And again, I want you to work on your breath in the manner that I've described, to make your breath deep and slow and rhythmic and heart centered and full if you can as well. A lot of different balls to keep in the air there, I know. And you just notice whatever is going on for you right now. To feel that you're open to whatever thoughts and feelings that you might be having. Well, that sends a signal. It sends a signal to your unconscious. And of course, so much of our mind is unconscious. The part that we're aware of is just a tiny part of the total. So now take your awareness and focus it on your heart center. Breathe in and out through your heart. Imagine that as you breathe in, your heart is receiving energy, receiving vitality, receiving connection with all of life, receiving love. And as you breathe out, your heart is projecting, is radiating, is sharing, is giving. Your heart is expressing your innermost nature, who you are. And so when thoughts arise, whatever they're about, mm, I'm having a thought right now that's about a fly that just crawled up my arm and then buzzed onto my eyelid and has now gone to points unknown. And I'm wondering when it will return. So, whenever you have a thought, you connect it to your heart, right, with your breath. And you just take this attitude and you say to yourself, right, yeah, this thought is arising from a feeling that behind and beneath that feeling is a deeper feeling. Beneath that, an even deeper one. And you just take that attitude, right, and just allow whatever is going to happen. You allow that to happen, right? Now, I'm hoping that you also are able to keep your breath in in the way that I've described, right? That is, make sure your breath is deep, make sure your breath is slow, breath is rhythmic, all of that, and full, right? Heart centered. So I know that's a lot to keep track of, and maybe that is all there's space for in your mind right now, right? And that's okay, right? It's kind of like when you first learn any skill, it takes a lot of conscious attention. Like when you first learn how to drive, it takes a lot of attention to just do that, right? I mean, there's so many different parts of it, right? Then you get good at driving and you do it basically mostly with your unconscious, right? I mean, the same is true with any skill. So I would like you to get good at breathing in the manner that I've described so that it can be moved to your unconscious mind when you're meditating. Right now, you might not keep that kind of breath up all the time, probably not, right? But when you do sit down and meditate and say, this is the time, right? And you start to do it, it's going to become much easier for you over time, right? Once you learn the trick of it, it's going to take some practice. It's going to take your full focus for a while. And if it seems too easy, then maybe there's a bit further you could go with it, right? What is the thought behind the thought? What is the feeling behind that thought? What is the deeper feeling? And so on. Maybe the initial thought is mundane. Most of our thoughts are. Maybe you're thinking about an argument that you had with somebody. That happened to me earlier today. I was thinking of an argument that I was having with somebody on Twitter. Okay, that's a perfectly fine thing to think about, right? But what is deeper than that, right? Where's the feeling that that comes from, right? What is the thing that makes you think about this after it's already happened, right? What is the thing that that you care so much about whether the other person understands, for example, right? If it's an argument, or Did you want to say? Did you want to be heard? Where does that come from? What is the emotion beneath that? Explore that, feel that. There's no need to label it or to understand it mentally or whatever. Just dive into it, right? Do you need to understand water in order to jump in a pool? Well, I mean, not really, right? And then try to experience the deeper emotion beyond that. Now, the deeper you go with the feeling, the less connected it is to a particular thing, right? To a particular event or person, right? It becomes more impersonal. Meditation is about the infinite. So perhaps you can dive so deeply into that feeling, so deeply into that experience that it opens up to become an infinite, an infinite expanse of emotion, an unlimited feeling. You might be wondering, how do I know what when I'm thinking and when I'm feeling? How do I tell that, right? It might be very obvious. It might be like, if you forgive the metaphor, it's kind of like if I said, how do you know if you've had an orgasm? Right. Oh, you know. Right. It's a very strong experience, right? You just know by the strength of the experience. Now that might be happening for you, maybe so. If so, then you certainly don't need me. But if not, right, you might be looking for some signal that's a little more subtle, right? That um, when you feel something, there's often an element of surprise to it, right? Like surprise is often what happens when your mind confronts emotion. Like I didn't expect it to feel quite that way, right? I mean, maybe the feeling itself was what I thought I was feeling, but there's some aspect of it. Maybe it's the intensity. Maybe it's the combination with other feelings, whatever it is, right? Is somehow different than what I thought, right? That is often the mark of a deep feeling. All right. Well, we'll end that section of practice there. Which I don't know what you guys are doing, but that means that I'm going to open my eyes. If you want to keep yours closed, of course, feel free. That's one of the liberties that you have in this online style class, right? I have no idea what you're doing. Uh, Different from a live class, right? The other thing, of course, is that I have no particular feedback on how it's going for you. So if you want to share that, feel free, right? Um, type a comment or feel free to send me a message later or something if you'd like. If you have a question about something that happens. Um, you know, Sometimes a lot happens in meditation. I mean, I've had meditations that felt like, in an hour, I felt like I lived an entire life during that, right? Um, oh, there's a familiar name. My friend Brandon has come in and like my metaphor, huh? All right. um, well, good to see you here, my friend. Uh, sometimes a lot happens in meditation, right? I mean, that's an incredible experience, right? And sometimes it's the opposite, right? I mean, sometimes sometimes it's like you're drinking from a fire hose or a fire hydrant or something, right? Like, yeah. And sometimes it's like you're drinking through a very thin straw. You don't get a whole lot. So you know, that's okay, right? That's something to accept as well, right? Um, are there going to be fireworks and inner light shows and stuff like this that happen? Yeah, yeah, that sometimes happens, and that can be a lot of fun, right? But the times when not much happens also have a lot of value, right? Um, Life isn't hugely exciting every single second, right? Thank goodness, right? All right, it would probably wear us out. um, all right, so if you're getting oh, my friend the fly is back, huh? I feel like Mike Pence right now in the debate. I had to it kind of reminds me of sometimes I have these experiences where I'll be meditating and I'll be really wanting to be just perfectly still. Oh, there he is. It's on my forehead. Um, and the times when I want to be so still, not move a muscle, right? And of course, that's the time when a fly or maybe a bunch of flies shows up, right? And then I have the experience of like, let me really try to focus on my meditation while I'm feeling that fly, slowly I'm feeling each step of their walking across my forehead type of thing, right? Um, so if I could connect this to what I was talking about earlier, right? Again, every experience has value. What is the purpose in this, right? That's a good question to ask, right? Now, it might not be evident what the purpose is. It might not be, it might be like a kind of Zen koan, right? Um, what is the purpose of this fly crawling slowly across my head? Um, well, I don't know exactly, right? So, but in pondering that, right? Again, we take the experience to the inside, right? That's what we're trying to do here. That's what the inner journey is about, right? Is to say this is an opportunity for self-knowledge, for self-expression, for self-discovery, right? And what can I gain from this, right? So again, try that out, right? Maybe that's helpful to you. If so, then use it, right? If not, throw it away. I'm not going to be offended. you know, different things work for different people, after all. Okay. Um, all right. So I've got a couple of questions I wanted to get to, uh, and one is how long should you meditate? Question that I get a lot. Um, the basic answer to that is it depends on what your goals are with it. Um, any amount of time that you spend meditating is good. Um, you, you might think about, well, what are you hoping to gain from it, right? Are you hoping just to just try it out, experience it? Is 5 or 10 minutes enough to do that? Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Um, would you like to develop something in yourself, right? Would you like to become more patient? Well, can meditation do that? Yeah, but it's probably not going to do it in 5 minutes, right? I mean, there's a joke in there, right? Listen, I'm really trying to develop patience, but I only have 5 minutes. five, 5 minutes might not be enough time for that, right? So if you want to really change something about yourself, well, you have to put in the time, right? Um, you want to be patient. Well, sit still. You want to develop self control, and this gets back to the reason why I might let a fly go across my face, right? Self control. I always wanted to develop self control, right? As a very early life interest of mine that I've always had. So should I move? Could I swat this fly away or shoot it away or whatever? Of course, right? But to not do that, right? Is it annoying me? Yes, it's annoying me, right? Come on, I'm like anybody else, right? But I'm going to suppress that. I'm going to deny that. I'm going to ignore that, right? Why? Because it's a fundamental exercise in self control. And if I didn't have that fly there, it would be like a much easier exercise, right? Like it's easier for me to sit still without a fly going across my face than it is with one on my face, right? Like anybody else. Um, all right, so how long you should meditate really depends on what you're hoping to gain from it, right? So I want to encourage you, right? If you just have a few minutes or whatever, you're just getting into it, that's great. You know, um, if you want more from it, you got to be prepared to give more to it, just like anything else. All right. Uh, Another question I get quite a bit: is meditation hard? Um, yes, it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Come on, this is, um, nothing that's easy is like gonna make much of an impact on you, right? I mean, I wish it were different. I wish that easy, pleasurable, nice things would also help you grow and develop your character. Wouldn't that be great, right? Um, but I mean, all I can say is if that happens, it's rare. I mean, a lot of times it's the difficult experiences, the hard experiences that teach us so much more. Um, I hope I get to the point where I can learn from life's pleasures and pleasantries and joys, and I hope so. Um, but so far, I guess I'm very dense, right? Because I've mostly learned from the difficulties. So meditation is hard, yeah. It's hard and it's worthwhile, right? Uh, Not to sugarcoat it, but also, this is something that is a skill that if you put something into it, you get a lot back. I mean, you know, I've invested in a lot of different skills in my life. Um, my friend is back. The fly. I've invested in a lot of different skills in my life, and meditation is easily the one that has given the most to me. Um, like it's not even close. Um, so that's my experience. Um, all right, the last question I have here is it better to meditate alone or with somebody? Um, both of those are good. I don't know if one is better or worse than another, but you meditate alone. Of course, you have your own energy, right? You're exploring yourself there, right? You have somebody else with you, or you're with a group of people. Then you have group energy, right? Um, Now that can be very helpful because it can carry you along. I mean, think about singing a song, right? Sing a song by yourself and sing a song with a group of people. Mm. If you experience that, right? Um, Now it can be annoying if the other people aren't good at singing, right? And it can be annoying if the people that you're with have a vibe that's very different from yours. Um, but it can be hugely beneficial, right? If you have this kind of shared vibe, right? I hope that maybe you pick up some of this from being in this live. Most of the people who do this class don't do it live, right? I know this because the number of views on the spot is much fewer than the number that watch it later. Um, I think I feel that there's a certain energy that happens, right? That can carry you along even when maybe you don't feel that energy within yourself. So that's a benefit of a group. Um, it is also good though to develop the ability to bring that out of yourself, right? To tap in, um, to get that energy flowing on your own. That's also a skill that's good to have. So I don't know if that answers the question. Um, all right. Well, I'm going to wrap up the class then because I don't like these to be too long. We'll have the class again next week. I always start from the beginning every single week. So if you know somebody who would like to join, anyone can do so at any time, right? Um, and the question here that's come in right at the bell: will meditation make you a good person? Um, and the answer to that is that it depends on what you mean by good, right? Um, you know, good is a matter of a point of view, right? So, what one person thinks is good, another person might think is bad. you know, um, I think there are things that you see in everyone who meditates that are sort of common attributes. Like is the person as quick to respond? Are they as quick to get angry? Uh, Probably not, right? Are they a bit calmer, a bit more patient? Probably, right? I mean, these are things that I've observed I know lots of people who meditate, right? So, um, I've observed that kind of tendency. Um, does that mean that the person is always going to behave in a manner that you would like? Not at all. We're still limited human beings, right? I mean, we still have our egos, and we still, those egos are going to clash at times. Um, so, but it is one of the things. We all have like these illusions that we cling to, right? Um, would that like, and one of these is that someone that I admire is always going to be good and is never going to disappoint me. Oh my God, right? Talk about an illusion that is just waiting to be shattered, right? I mean, like, think of somebody you admire. Has that person ever disappointed you? Have they ever said something that you disagree with? I mean, I hope so, right? Otherwise, you don't know them very well, right? um, we let each other down. I mean, we have hopes and expectations. We put people on a pedestal, right? Um, and the only way down from the pedestal is to fall, right? I mean, that's so. And we might not think of that as good, right? I mean, that might be very disappointing. That might be very shattering for us. Um, so I don't know. I feel like it's an unsatisfactory answer, but I think it's also like one of these questions that can't really be answered by another person, right? It always has to be answered by yourself, right? Right. Like again, one of those Zen koans. Um, it doesn't matter if somebody else answers it, right? What matters is how you answer it, right? Um, all right, I got another question that came in here. Do I see a connection between my teachings on meditation and Marxism? Yes. Well, both of these are things that I studied for a long time, and I actually spoke on this one a bit more in last week's class. Um, I will say briefly here, just to answer the question, that I think of Marxism is the dream of a society that is based on sharing, cooperation, love, even, right? Um, and this is a radical break from the way that society's been organized for, all of written history, right? Um, I think that requires a kind of evolution of humanity, right? A leap forward. Um, I think meditation can help with that quite a bit, right? Meditation can help your own personal development, right? Can help you see that other people have very similar feelings as you do, right? I mean, and that maybe everybody should have a decent life regardless of what they do, right? Um, so, I think that I mean, my own position is that is better, right? That would be better for humanity. Um, I don't even think that anybody, even the greatest opponents of Marxism and communism, agree that it's a nice idea, right? A society that treats everyone like a family, right? That allows no one to starve or lack the basics, right? The opponents of it just say, well, that's not possible, right? That's not human nature or whatever, right? Um, what is human nature? What is possible? What is impossible? I mean, 200 years ago, people said it's impossible to have a society without a king. But is it? What is possible and impossible changes as we develop, right? So, yes, I see many connections. I mean, this is an area that I'd love to speak more on, and perhaps I will next week. But I don't want this class to be too long. So, thank you again for joining me, and hopefully I'll see some of you again next week.